Hello everybody, good evening. This is Tunde Disu once again saying thank you for joining us with for this program tonight. But just before we start, let's say a word of prayer. We commit this day, O Lord, into your hands. We ask you, Father, that you guide us through this program. We speak to all our equipment that they function and perfect, and they function perfectly in the name of Jesus. Let the word that will come out of my mouth today, Lord, be seasoned with your grace, that it will minister wholeness and peace to your people. We give you all the glory. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you for joining me again for another episode of the Admirals program that we've been running now for. This is our 4th week. Can you believe that how time flies? We are in the 4th week already. And it's amazing what has happened in the past 4 weeks. It's amazing how God has been speaking to each and every one of us on becoming a better person, but precisely becoming a better man. And it's interesting, the feedbacks, the comments, the contributions that everybody has been making towards making this program what it was set out to be. And on that note, I want to especially say thank you to all of you. It's been an awesome privilege for me to be able to share with you what God has laid on my heart, so that together, like the Bible says, He raised us up together with Him, so that together we can all become better at who we are and what we have been called to do. But before we go into today's program, I just want to do a quick recap on how far we've come. It's interesting what we've covered in the last few weeks. Dickness Jill is with us. Thank you for coming. Ifeanyi, oh wow, long time. How are you? Thank you for joining us too. Berry Abundance is here with us. I'm so grateful that you're all here. Wow, my big brother from Nigeria, Mr. Webajo, thank you. Wow, I'm so honored to have you with me today. Thank you so much. It's such a privilege, and happy birthday in eries. So I was saying we will do a quick recap just to see how far we've come, what we've covered, what we've seen, what we've learned. It's good for us to do this because you remember one of the parameters that we set at the beginning was we will have a feedback, we will check on each other, we will hold each other accountable, we will help one another to grow and become better in everything that we're doing, and that is the essence of this recap today. I remember in the first week we looked at finding your knots, your non-negotiable, unalterable terms. Finding your knots, non-negotiable, unalterable terms. And simply what we were saying in the first week was you need to establish what is the most important thing in your life. What are those things that are non-negotiable in your life? And some people said my children, some said my walk with God, some said my relationship with my wife, some said my career, my health, doing the right thing for the sake of doing it right. And different people came up with different things which were important in their life. So we said, now that you've established what those things are, you now have to go and defend them. Make no apologies for those things, because those things are the pillars that hold your life. They are the things that shape who you are and define you as a person. The second week we talked about overcoming fear, and we said fear is a spirit. And the Bible talks about God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of love, of power, and of a sound mind. We also established that fear is irrational. It's not logic. We talked about the fact that fear can help us or deliver us from doing harm to ourselves or killing ourselves. But the flip side to that, we said that fear can also stop us from stepping out of the boat, as it were, from attaining or even attempting the destiny, the glorious purpose for which God has created us to be on this planet. So we looked at what are some of the characteristics of fears, and then we looked at how to overcome fear. And I remember one of the things we said was, in order to overcome fear, you have to apply logic, because you remember we said fear is irrational and it has no logic to it. Last week, which was the third week, we looked at the fact that first impression matters. First impression matters. And we talked about the fact that in a tenth of a second, when you meet somebody new, they've made a decision about who you are. And within 60 seconds, their brain has captured the data, processed the data, sort the data, analyze the data, and shoot out a report. And that report becomes the first impression that person has of you. And we established that first impression, it is made in an instant, but it lasts a long time, and it takes the grace and also time for it to be changed. And we finally said, in order for you to project, for people to receive you as who you are, you don't need to act, you don't need to fake it, you don't need to try to make it so that they can have good first impression. Remember, we said your outward appearance, your outward display is only a monitor of the computer that's working on the inside of you. So whatever is on the inside is what will come out. So all you need to do, if you want people to have good impression about you, especially for the first time, you don't need to work mostly on the outward. Work on the inside, on your character, on your views to life, on your relationship, on how you relate to people. And when that is established, then what will come out will just be your natural self, and you don't need to act, you don't need to pretend. Today, before we go into today's program, this is what I like all of us to do. Dr. Jamie Garande is with us. Thank you so much for coming on, my very good friend. Now, this is what I like you to do. What I would like us to do is, the 3 programs that we've had so far, I would like you on a scale of 1 to 5 to rate them. The reason I say that is, it's a form of feedback for me to know where you are and how you are, how this is ministering to you, how this is reaching you, how this is helping you. So I want you to rate it on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. And I want you to be objective, be sincere, and be honest with your ratings. Secondly, if you have any question or any query or any suggestion or any views about any of those 3 programs that we've done so far, what I'd like you to do is to send an email to our official email address, which is theadmirals@yahoo.com. theadmirals@yahoo.com. And I will endeavor to respond to those emails. So those are the first 2 things I'd like us to do. Rate the 3 programs we've done so far. And if you have any addition, question, query, observation, send us an email, and I will personally endeavor to respond to the email. Also, last week I mentioned, just in case you haven't heard, maybe you've just come back from the island of Patmos. Sometime last year, I had a singular honor of publishing my first book, Elisha Project, The Privilege of Serving Leaders. Elisha Project, The Privilege of Serving Leaders. And it's a time capsule, as it were, of what I have seen, what I have learned, what I have experienced, the journey of over 20 years serving leaders, especially pastors and all the other leaders in church and in life generally. And I highly, highly recommend this book because it will help you to understand what it means to serve, the importance of serving, the benefit of serving, the challenges of serving. What are the qualities required for you to be regarded as a good and faithful servant? So it's on Amazon. If you haven't got a copy, please avail yourself of this material. And for those that have had the time to go in, get a copy, buy a copy, read some of it, I want to also appreciate you for your support on this project. Thank you so much. Right, that's that done. What are we looking at tonight? Thank you for joining us, Sister Kate. What are we looking at tonight? Tonight is special. Tonight we're looking at a topic that we all have, we all do, we all relate to. Lamont Smith from Bermuda. Whoa, thank you, Lamont. It's an honor to have you with us tonight. What we're looking at tonight is something that we've taken for granted for a long time, and we still do even now. And the idea, you remember, the whole essence of this program is to help us become better at who we are and what we do, especially for those of us as men. I know we have ladies with us, and they are very welcome to be part of this. The topic for tonight is paying attention by listening. Paying attention by listening. In a nutshell, we're looking at the art of listening. The art of listening. Now, I know for some of you, you will immediately think, what are you talking about, Tunde? I listen. I can even hear you now. And that is true. You can hear me. Well, if you can hear me, please put something on the screen. Let me know you can hear me. But what I like to do tonight is to help us see that there's a big difference, a massive difference between listening and hearing. There's a massive gap between what it means to hear and what it means to listen. And as we go through tonight, you will discover that what some of us have been doing, what we have been saying, what we think we've been doing, when we say, oh yes, I listened. No, we've only heard, we didn't listen. So I'm going to go through tonight's program trying to explain and open it up so that we can all understand and become better for it. And then you will see how important this aspect of our daily communication is to who we are and where we are, and especially where we're going. The funny thing is, hearing and listening are not synonymous. They are not synonymous at all. Even though the mechanism through which we do the two seem like the same, which is this flesh here. But the process, the essence of hearing and listening are completely different. Hearing is a biological function. Hearing is a biological function. You don't have to do anything for as long as you have the gift of hearing, because you can have ears and not hear. But for as long as you have the gift of hearing, you don't need to do anything to hear. Like I'm speaking now and you can hear me. You don't need to do anything. In fact, the moment you have to think about hearing tells me something is wrong with your ears. It's just like you don't need to think about your heart beating. You don't need to think, is my brain working? You don't need to think, is my eye seeing? But for any reason, if you have to remind yourself that your heart is it working? Is it still beating? Is it there? Then it tells me there's something wrong with your heart. If you have to remind yourself that I can see, can I see? Something is wrong with your eyes. It is the same thing with hearing. For as long as you have this ear, you have ears, and you have the gift of hearing, nothing is wrong with your ability to hear. It is completely a biological function. It's like breathing. It's like blinking your eye. You just do it and you don't think about it. It happens all by itself. However, that is hearing. You just hear, you just can hear. Good. Listening, on the other hand, is a mental process. Listening is a mental process. And you see, the word process there immediately tells me it is a product of decision. Process simply means it is a product of decision. You have to decide. You have to determine in your heart, in yourself, that I am going to not just hear, but I am going to listen. You remember in the Bible, Jesus after a while will say, those who have ears, let them hear what the Spirit of the Lord is saying. He's not saying those who have this. He's saying those who have the ability to listen, they will hear not what I am saying, but what the Spirit of God in me is saying in this particular moment. Thank you, Brother Sonjo. Thank you, Ebenezer, for joining us as well. So what am I saying? I'm saying listening is the process of receiving, of attending to, and assigning meaning to oral and visual stimuli. I'll say that again. Listening is the process of receiving, of attending to, and assigning meaning to oral and visual stimuli. Now, as you can see immediately, there's a difference between hearing and listening. Because with hearing, it happens. With listening, you have to decide that you are going to receive, you are going to attend to, and then you are going to assign meaning to what you are hearing. If you understand what I'm saying, just type something. Let me know that I'm not just rambling on. Tell me something. Do you agree with me that there's a difference between hearing and listening? Hearing is a biological function, but listening is a mental process. And like I said, process simply means a decision has been made that I'm going to listen. The good part of it is, in order for you to be a listener, you have to learn to do it. And as a man, as men, as human beings, one of the things that add value to our lives is not just our ability to hear, but our ability to listen. The funny thing is, there are a group of people out there that makes their living just by listening. For instance, counselors. They listen to you. They make you feel you have my undivided attention. And because of that, people are happy to pay them just for listening. Not to hear them, but to listen. For instance, I'm trying to give another example here just to emphasize the difference between listening and hearing. For instance, you probably I don't know if this has, I'm sure it has happened to you before if you are sincere. Maybe you're reading the Bible, you're reading a book or a novel or newspaper, and you suddenly find yourself going to the next page and the next page, and suddenly it hits you that, wait a minute, what did I just read? I can't even remember what I read from that page. Now, what's just happened there is you've seen those letters on the page of on the pages of the book or the Bible or the newspaper. You've seen the letters there. You've recognized them because you have the ability to read. But you have not really read. Because until you until you assign meaning to what you have seen, you haven't read it. And it's the same thing with the hearing and listening. Until you attend to what you are hearing and you assign meaning to it, you assign value, you assign significance, you immediately prick yourself to say, I need to do something about this. You haven't listened. You've only heard. Because with regards to the book, all you've seen is you've seen the words on the pages of the book, but you just haven't read it. You have not read it. Seeing, just like hearing, happens because you have eyes and you have the gift of sight. Just like hearing happens because you have ears and you have the gift of hearing. It's the same thing with seeing. But reading requires you to exert some brain power. It is an active process of making meaning, just like listening. It's a process of receiving, of attending to, and assigning meaning to oral or visual stimuli. The funny thing about listening is when you are listening, when you are actually listening and not just hearing, the people around you, the person you are relating to will know. When somebody is hearing you and somebody is listening to you, you know, either from their facial expression, from their body language, from their nodding of heads, something will tell you this person is not just hearing me, this person is actually listening. And at this point, let me just ask, if you would just go ahead and share this message, if you go ahead and share this broadcast, because again, we take a lot of things for granted, and sometimes the difference between 10% and 50% are little things like what we're looking at tonight. So be a blessing to somebody. Leave a footprint of this on your Facebook, but share it so that your friends of friends, your contacts and contact of other contacts can also benefit from what we're looking at tonight. Remember, we are at this point trying to differentiate between listening and hearing. But the funny thing is this: those that are very close to us, those are really close to us, like our spouses, our children, our friends, our family, they are the one we hear and not listen to. They are the people that we just give ear service to without, again, remember the definition, attend to and assign meanings to what they are saying. And that is why sometimes as men, your wife would say, we need to do this. And you say, look, we've talked about this 5 times now in the last 2 days. I said we would do it. But you see, to her, you have heard, but you haven't listened. Because if you have listened, you would definitely do something about what you've heard. Listening is almost like faith. Faith is no faith until you start acting on what you said you believe. It's the same thing with listening. It's not listening until you attend to it and you assign meaning, you assign value, you put power behind it. Then you will know, or the person that you're relating to will know you're not just hearing, but you're actually listening. But because we have decided and we are determined, especially on this journey, on this platform, that our goal is to go from location good to destination better men and women, We are therefore encouraged to take on board this topic of tonight regarding listening. And especially as men, we need to tune out the stereotype attitude of men that if you've said it, I've heard it. Because yes, you may have heard it, but you didn't listen because you didn't do anything about what you have heard. So the three things we'll be dealing with tonight, the three core areas we'll be looking at tonight are, we'll try to emphasize the importance of listening within our daily interactions. The importance of listening within our daily interactions. Secondly, we'll be looking at the three available levels of listening. Now, I know some of you are thinking, levels of listening, what are you talking about? Bra Emmanuel from Nigeria, thank you for joining us. Mamusu, thank you for joining us as well. We appreciate your time and for setting out this time. But please go ahead and share this program on your Facebook so that others can benefit from it. So number one, I said we'll be looking at the emphasis on listening within our daily interactions. Number two, we'll be looking at the three available levels of listening. And number three, we'll be looking at what are the benefits that will accrue to you and accrue to me once we learn the skill of listening. Once we learn the skill of listening and we're practicing it, what are the benefits that will accrue to us, because it will actually take us to the highest level. If this is helping you, I would like to see some comments, some feedbacks from you so that we can talk about this to and fro and just help one another. Listening is in perspectives. Listening is in perspective. The truth is that listening is the most frequently used of all the skills of communication. Listening is the most frequently used of all the skills of communication. But the funny thing is the least developed in our lives when it comes to communication. And I will give you statistics now to back this up so that you won't think I'm just throwing words at you. Listening is the most frequently used of all our communication skills, but yet is the least developed of all the communication skills. In a day, for instance, you'll be amazed the percentage that is required of us to listen compared to talking, reading, and other forms of communication. In fact, let's go ahead and look at facts and figures as far as these different forms of communication are concerned. And I want us to cast our minds back to when we were little to where we are today. And I will explain as we go along. Most of us, in fact, I would dare to say nearly all of us, received a minimum of 12 years of instruction on how to write and write well. Do you agree with me on that? Minimum of 12 years of learning, of being shown, being taught, being explained to, being put through the process of writing and how to write well. I remember in those days in primary school, one of the letters that I had serious struggle with on how to write is the letter W. I just, for whatever reason, I just couldn't write W. And I remember my class teacher then in Asarudin Primary School in Irolu would ask me to go and sit down in a corner, and there's a pit of sand. And that is where I'll be practicing how to write W. For God knows how long I will be there. Obviously, other children will be there doing their own learning as well. But in my case, it's the letter W. And I'll just be there trying to write W. Try to write W. A lot of training, a lot of teaching, a lot of explanation went into how I learned to write W. And even now, even though I can write W now, but every now and again when I write something, as part of learning to write, I'll give it to somebody that I know and I trust to say, can you read through this for me? And just point out if there are areas, if there are corrections, if there are things I need to change, maybe the way I frame the sentence, and all of that training goes into learning how to write. But this is the funny thing. Writing actually, on average, on a daily basis, writing actually equates to about 9% of our communication on a daily basis. You only use the skill of writing, say about 9% of your daily communication. Yet, you received a minimum of 12 years of learning how to write and how to write well. Started from your primary school to your, maybe for those who attended nursery or preschool or post-school, and you learn how to write, and then you go to primary school, you're still learning, and then you go to a higher primary school, then you're still learning to write, and you keep learning and learning. Even as an adult, you're still learning how to write. Now, it's not how to write A, B, C, D, but you're learning how to write constructively, because the way you speak is different from the way you write. You spend a minimum of 12 years learning how to write, but writing actually equates to 9%. 9% of your daily communication. Reading is another thing that we do a lot of learning on how to do. Minimum, we receive between 6 to 8 years of learning how to read. We start learning how to read A, B, C, D, and then we start learning how to use letters to form words to form sentence and all of that. Mr. Disu is asking, who is a better listener, man or woman? Well, if you go down that path, I think we'll be here for forever. But I can tell you, I think the women are better listeners than men. Men hear. We just hear. But women, they listen. And that's why you will hear things like, a man will hear what you say, but a woman will feel what you say. The two are completely different. So I think the women are better listeners than men. And if you don't agree with that, please put your comment on the screen and let's look at that. Thank you for joining us, Bra Moses. Thank you. So we're saying reading takes between 6 to 8 years of learning, and yet it only accounts to 16% of our daily communication. 16%, and yet we spend between 6 to 8 years of learning how to read. Speaking receives maybe 1, maybe 2 years of learning how to speak. You know, as a child, the first thing you say is ba, 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 ba. And then you start saying other things until you have grown to be able to speak freely. But learning to speak usually is between 1, maybe 2 years, depending on the rate of development of that child. But the funny thing is this. Speaking only accounts for 30% of our daily communication. Speaking only accounts for 30% of our daily communication. Now, look back, we said we spent about 12 years learning how to write, but it only accounts to 9% of our daily communication. We spent between 6 to 8 years of learning how to read, but only 16% of our daily communication involves reading. We spent nearly a year, maybe 2, to learn how to speak, but it only accounts to 30% of our daily communication. Now listen to this. Listening, however, receives less than half a year of formal training. For those of us where we are all adults now, can you remember your parents sitting you down to say, this is how you listen, this is how you hear, this is how you listen? They don't say that. They just assume, or they just see you hearing what they're saying, and they take that to mean you can hear and you're listening. But watch this. On a daily basis, for a whole day's communication, listening takes up 45% of our daily communication. Now, we spend less than a year learning how to listen, and yet it amounts to 45% of our daily communication. Is it surprising, therefore, that most of us don't listen? We've never learned it. We just assume we can hear, and we interpret that to mean listening, when they are two different things completely. I hope you are beginning to see the importance of the topic tonight, and also you are following on establishing the difference between just hearing and actually listening. Now, the statistics I've just read out now, it's not to say listening is a better skill to learn than all the others. No, all I'm trying to say is we haven't done a good job at learning the skill of listening, and that is why some of the challenges we have in our relationships, in our dealings with other people, especially people who are close to us, our spouses, our friends, our families, our colleagues at work, and our children. There are issues there because most of us just hear, we don't listen. Most of us hear, we don't listen. Emmanuel Ajigwe said, "You're right, sir. This is very correct." He's referring to the question that was posted earlier on about who is a better listener, the men or the women. And I said, in my opinion, the women are better listeners than men. And he's just affirming that. Now, if you have a different opinion, by all means, let's hear it, and then we will acknowledge it as well. So, having established where we are so far, now let's look at the 3 levels of listening. The 3 levels of listening. And please, like I said earlier on, if you haven't shared this program, please go ahead and share it. Leave a footprint on your Facebook and be a blessing to your friends. Brafemi Jobi has joined us. Thank you for coming. Appreciate your time. There are 3 levels of listening that we have to choose from on any given interaction. When you are relating, when you are interacting, when you are speaking, when you are communicating with somebody else, maybe a person, a group of people, or a large crowd, or there are 3 levels of listening that we have to engage in. And those 3 levels are these. The first level is hearing words. Like you can hear me, and I'm speaking, and you're hearing, you are speaking, and I'm hearing. So that's the first level. That is the first level, the ability to hear. Like I said at the beginning, it is wanting to have this element called ears, or this feature called ears, but it's another thing to have a hearing, the gift of hearing, so that you can hear. So the first level of hearing is the first level of listening, is hearing words. What are the characteristics that one can relate to, one can deduce, one can associate with this level of listening? The first one is, all of us, we all default automatically to this level of hearing. Everybody, whether you are man, woman, boy or girl, we all default to this level of listening, which is you hear. For as long as you have the gift of hearing, you hear. And more often than not, it is a misconception to think because you can hear, you are listening, as we have already established. The second characteristic of this level is that it puts us in the uncomfortable position of misunderstanding a message. Communication is information or facts or data being sent and being received in the form that it was sent to mean what it was sent by and for. Now, because most of the times when we hear, thinking we're listening, because hearing is our default mode, there is the uncomfortable position of misunderstanding of the message being sent by the sender. Because you were not listening, you were just hearing. I don't know if this has happened to you before. Somebody says something and you, in your mind, you heard something and you repeat what you heard, and the person said, "No, I didn't say that." You said, "No, that's what you said." "No, I didn't say that." No, you said, no. And you go on backwards, forward, back, trying to establish that's what you said, and they're saying, "No, I didn't say that." It is because you are hearing, you weren't listening. The third characteristic of hearing rather than listening is that this is the level where we easily and quickly jump to conclusion. Remember, we said listening is assigning meaning to what you're hearing. That's listening. But because you only hear and you didn't listen, it is easy for you to jump to conclusion that that's what they're saying. When in actual fact, if you are taking your time to step back and listen, you will realize that that's not what they're saying. Another characteristic of hearing and not listening is that if the person speaking asks you, "What did I say? What did I just say?" You're lost. I think you said, no, that's not what I said. I think that's what you... It is because you're just hearing. You are not assigning value to what you're hearing, which is what listening is about. And sometimes, this is another characteristic of hearing. Sometimes we are aware vaguely that I didn't hear that. But because you want the person that is speaking to think you are listening, even though you know that is not what you heard, you try to make a point that that's what you're hearing. And you try to put the blame on the person speaking. When they are not, that is not actually the case. You are not listening. The most alarming thing about this level of listening is that we are emotionally and mentally detached from the speaker. We are emotionally and mentally detached from the speaker because we are just hearing, we weren't listening. And that is why sometimes you're speaking to your children and you say something and the child reacts in a different way. It is because they are mentally and emotionally detached from what you're saying. And that's why they heard you, but they weren't listening to the essence of what you are saying. Thank you, Brother Sheyi. Sheyi is also confirming that women are better listeners. than men. He said, however, men also listen, but in most cases they demonstrate an active process to what is being heard, and a conscious decision is made. But you've only heard, you haven't listened, because if you listen, you will see the essence of the message. The next characteristic of hearing word and not listening is that for some time you get away with it. But your getting away with it is at the mercy of the speaker. And that is why sometimes as husband, your wife has been saying this thing over and over, and just because she's not pressing it hard, just because she's not demanding an action from you, you think, oh, I'll just hear what she has to say. But in actual fact, a day will come when she will sit you down and say, here, come, oh boy, you're not listening to me. Oh, but I heard, no. I know you heard me, but you were not listening. And if care is not taken, because of man's ego, this can easily become an argument issue when it needed not be. All you have to do is say, do you know what? I'm sorry, I wasn't listening. I heard what you said, but I wasn't listening. Can you say that again? You have my full attention. And that will resolve that conflict. So that's the first level of listening. It's the level where all you do is just hear the word. And we have just elaborated on the signs or the characteristics of this level of listening. Please, if you are still out there, you can hear me and you are following in this program, can you please let me know, say something, type something. Can you reckon with some of these characteristics that we're talking about? Is there any of them that you can say, you know what, you got my number there? Yes, I agree with you on that one. Yes, that's true. That is me that you're talking about. If that's the case, please put something on the screen, type something, let me know you are still out there and you can hear me as I move into the next level of listening. The next level of listening. Remember, the essence of this program is for us to become better at who we are and what we do. And there is no way I can overemphasize the importance of learning the skill to listen. Apostle Vitalis, thank you for joining us. This is such an honor. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you and your time, sir. The second level of listening is when you listen in spurts. Spurts as in S for sugar, P for Papa, U for umbrella, R for Romeo, T for tango, S for sugar. You listen in spurts. In this category, you are listening, but just only. You are barely, you are in between hearing and listening. You've just stepped out of hearing and you are stepping into listening. And these are some of the ways you will know when you are operating at this level of listening. Number one, you are aware to some degree that you are listening, but very poorly. You are aware yourself that, yes, I'm not just hearing, I'm listening, but something else is distracting you. Something else is occupying the other half of your mind, your heart, your ability to pay full attention. It's like, I know a lot of ladies will agree with me on this. It's like you're on a Saturday afternoon and Chelsea is beating Arsenal as usual, or beating Man U as usual, and you're trying to talk to your husband and he say, yes, and you're thinking, no, you're not. That's not what I'm saying. You're just saying yeah, because to him, he's trying to listen to you, but at the same time, Diego Costa is just about to score the fourth goal. So for him, that's where half of his mind is. So he's saying, yes. And he's also jumping out of his seat. That is the second level of listening is when you listen, but only just, then you are operating in the spirit level of listening. The second characteristic of this level of listening is that you know that concentration on the message is important, so you tune in temporarily just to get enough information so that you are not totally lost in the course of the conversation. Say somebody is talking to you. You know for definite that this information is important. So you pay enough attention, you give enough of yourself to hear what the person is saying and to listen to what they're saying, but not completely. The reason you do that is because you know, if I don't get enough information on this, I won't be able to go back to this person to ask, sorry, what did you say? How did you say we're going to do it? You just get enough here, enough there, so that you try to make a whole afterwards. The danger in that is, because you haven't got the full picture, irrespective of how much parts you put together, it never gives you a whole. Because there will still be some missing ingredients in the course of what you produce eventually. And sometimes this happens at work, where your superior or people that report to you, you are trying to give them an instruction. You are trying to tell them, okay, this is what we're going to do, so that this and so that that. But they are half listening. All they want is, well, he said we'll do this. He said I should ring that person. But I can't remember what he said I should tell. I'm sure I'll just get along so that I can get out of his office. All of that is a characteristic of listening in sports. Another characteristic of listening in sport is that you are always looking for the next opportunity to jump in and speak, rather than actually attending to the message of the other person. You are eager, you are almost jumping in their throat to say, I need to say something, I need to say something. No, if you just calm down, take in the whole message, then you have your opportunity to say something. So that's the second level of listening. The third level of listening is the empathetic listening. Empathetic listening. This is a real act of listening. This is the proper listening. And the characteristic of empathetic listening is that when you are in that mode, when you are at that level, you set aside both internal and external distraction so that you can listen without judgment or interruption. The truth is this, gentlemen, if more of us as men will practice this type of listening, this empathetic listening, if more of us as men will practice it, some of the issues, some of the arguments and the concerns and the bickering we have with our spouses won't be there. Because what a woman is primarily looking for is your attention. Give me your total and undivided attention. Set aside both internal and external distraction so that you can hear me. And not just hear me with your ears, you can hear me in your heart. You can feel my heartbeat in what I'm saying. I don't know about you. This is an area I want to practice. I want to learn how to listen in this mode, at this level, so that when my wife, my children, my friends, my family, when they are talking to me, they know without a doubt that they have my undivided attention. And sometimes you have to deliberately, actively remove yourself either from the environment of what is distracting you or what could cause a distraction. Like switch off the TV. switch off the mobile phone, unplug the landline, whatever you have to do to give that person a total, complete attention. Hey, Paul, I know you will come. I've mentioned Chelsea. I know you will come. Thank you, Paul, for all the way from Ireland. Thank you for joining us. Paul Stewart is with us. When you give your undivided attention, your internal and your external distraction are completely shut down, then you are actually listening. And everything that is said, everything that is mentioned, every syllable, every word, every tone, you will grab it because you have given your full attention. The second characteristic of this level of listening is that you are emotionally and mentally, you invest your emotions and your mental faculty in what is being said, so that you can provide both verbal and non-verbal feedback to the speaker. When you give the speaker everything, when you give your full attention to the person speaking, which is the third level of listening, when you give your emotion and your mental faculties to the person speaking, it gives you the opportunity to give a feedback either in verbal or non-verbal communication. And once you're able to do that, the person speaking will also understand that, yes, he heard me. Yes, he was listening. Yes, he's with me, or she's with me, as the case may be. So the three levels we've talked about, the first level is where you just hear the word. The second level is where you listen in spot. And the third level is the empathetic listening. If I'm in your position, and I am saying this not to you, I'm saying this for me. My challenge, my promise, my commitment, my dedication is to get to this third level of listening. And when we start looking at the benefits of this type of listening, you will see what will accrue to you as the listener, not just for the sake of the speaker, but to you as a listener. Empathetic communication is like a partnership, and both individuals must play their roles. It's like a partnership. The speaker has a role to play, and the listener has a role to play. If you agree with me, let me know. Say something. And the question is, of these three levels, where are you? Where are you on these three levels? Where are you on these three levels? The challenge is we focus more on the speaker. We expect the speaker to be engaging, to be effective, to be efficient in delivering the message, when in actual fact, we, the listeners, are supposed to do most of the work when it comes to listening. Quickly, I know time is going. Let's look at what are the benefits of a good listener. What are the benefits that will accrue to you for being a good listener? Number one, it shows mutual respect. As we've just established, it shows mutual respect. In English language and in composition, there's something called Rogerian method. Rogerian method of communicating. And simply put, it means you put premium on listening to your opponent's view first. You put premium on listening to the speaker's view first. You confirm that you have accurately understood what is being said, and then you express your own views. So number one, you listen to your opponent's view without any judgmental mindset. Then you confirm to the person, this is what I understood from what you're saying, and then you express your views on what they have said. So that is the first aspect. It shows mutual respect. Theoretically, when the mutual respect, the benefit there is is the unspoken application of the golden rule. Do unto others as you want them to do unto you. Do unto others as you want them to do unto you. Sister Olabi Sinance is with us. Brother Hope is with us too. More often than not, when you respect other people in the way you listen, they will pay back to you too when it is your turn to listen. The number 2 benefit of being a good listener is that it's a way of resolving conflict. In most cases, people that are angry, people that are frustrated, all they're looking for is there somebody listening? Is there somebody there who is hearing my cry? Can somebody just pay attention? That's all they're looking for. In most cases, they're not looking for an answer. It's like when your wife says, oh, this and this is happening, and immediately a man is thinking, he said, okay, I need to fix the tap, I need to repair the carpet, the car needs to go to the garage. No, that's not what she's saying. She's not asking you to fix the problem. She's just saying to you, just sit down and hear me. Let me pour myself into you. That's all she's saying. But men, typically, we jump into action. Oh, I need to do that, I'll do that. No, she's not asking you for a solution. She's just saying, sit down and listen. So the number 2 benefit of a good listener is you are a conflict, it resolves conflict amicably. The number 3 benefit is that good listening is an act of learning. Good listening is a great avenue to learn. In fact, it's been proven that you learn more by hearing than by speaking. Sister Jill is just saying, good listening is listening to respond. It's not listening to respond, it's listening to understand. Wow, Kendi Amako. Whoa, Asubochi. Thank you for joining me. How are the children? Thank you all the way from Nigeria. Thank you. You listen to understand. The number 3 benefit of listening is that it's a great avenue for learning. You learn more by hearing than you do by speaking. And that is why God gave us 2 of these and 1 of this. Because we need more of this than this. And that is why when you are around people who are learned, who are thoroughbred, who really have this substance, they don't talk much. It's the shallow ones, like the old proverbs, it's the empty barrels that makes a lot of noise. It's the people that really don't know much that will try to impress you by saying so many things. Those who really know, they keep it simple. And that's why they don't talk much. They listen to what is being said. Listening allows you to pick up on details and opportunities you might otherwise have missed. When you are listening, you pick up details, you are more detail oriented, and there are things around you that you could have missed if all you do is yap, 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 yap. But if you listen, you will hear even the voice of God in your ear. You remember the story of Elijah in the cave when he was running from Jezebel. The fire came, the flood, the earthquake came, and all of that. But God was not in it. But God came in the gentle, still, small voice. So when you are a listener, you are able to pick up even the voice of God. And people say, oh, it's God. God is speaking all the time. We are not just listening. We're hearing, but we're not listening. God speaks to us all the time. Number 2, when you are a good listener, the second way you learn is that it helps you to ask better questions when appropriate. When you're a good listener, you are able to frame a good question in your heart, and you are able to ask it. You are able to ask the question at the appropriate time when you're a good listener. Once again, please share this program tonight so that others can benefit from it. Number 3, when you're a good listener, you learn through the ability to ask the right question. Sometimes asking the question is more important than knowing the answer. Sometimes asking the right question is more important than knowing than being given the answer. The 4th benefit of being a good listener is that it helps you in your work, in your career. Good listening, being a good listener helps you in your career. Recently, a survey was done among the leaders of the Fortune 500 companies in America, and they asked them, what are the main issues you are facing with your staff, your managers and all? And the number 1 issue they have is that people just don't know how to listen. Have you ever had a contractor, a plumber, a carpenter, a bricklayer in your house, and you say to them, this is what I want, this is how I want this, and say yes. But as soon as you go, they start doing something else. They are hearing you, they weren't listening. Good listeners are more open to new ideas. They are more innovative, and they provide better customer services. Good listeners are more innovative, they provide better customer services, and they are open to new ideas. Imagine how beneficial that would be in your place of work. Good listening is a ladder to promotion. When the 15 richest Americans were asked to give advice, or they were asked, what advice would you give to young entrepreneurs that want to be wealthy, that want to be rich, that want to be like you at some point? Guess what the answer was? The number 1 answer they gave was, these young people need to become good listeners. These young people, they need to become good listeners. The 5th benefit of being a good listener is that, gentlemen, this will help you. Women, ladies, they like a man who can listen. Point of talking. What is the point of talking if you are not listening? Ladies and gentlemen, the task for this week is simple. The task for this week is simple. DK Chukwumerije has joined us from Abuja. Thank you. Pastor Charles Okoye is with us too. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate all of your time. And please go and share this program on your timeline so that you can have a footprint and others can benefit from it. So the task for us this week, as we do, we always give ourselves a task each week. The task this week is this. Examine yourself and identify the areas where you need to improve on your listening ability. Examine yourself and identify areas where you need to improve in your listening ability. And number 2, make a deliberate effort to adopt the lessons from today's program throughout this whole next week. These things that we've mentioned on how to be a good listener and what is not a good listener and all of that, try and adopt some of them and put them to practice throughout for the next 1 week. Then we need a feedback from you. This is what we want to know. We need you to count how many of your family, friends, and colleagues actually recognize that there's something different about you. And what is that something they have noticed is different from about you. So count how many of them say, oh, something is different about this guy. And then say, oh, I think he's listening better now. I think he's paying more attention. I think he's more relaxed. I think he's not jumping at you when you're talking to him. And then send us a feedback. Again, the official email is the email address rather is theadmirals@yahoo.com. The Admirals with an S. theadmirals@yahoo.com. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I want to again say a big thank you for tonight. We had some technical glitches at the beginning, and that's why we couldn't start bang on 8 as we would normally do, and I apologize for that. We'll work on our preparation and make sure we're ready for next week. We have come to the end of the first month. Can you believe that the first month is over? We have looked at 4 major topics to do with developing our inner self to become a good man, to become a better man rather. We're already good men, but we want to be better. And we have looked at 4 inner factors that we need to work on, that we need to develop to become better men. From next week, we'll be looking at another set of factors, but external factors that we need to work on, that we need to develop, that we will need to take on board so that we can together become better men. I'm so excited about where this program is going. Judging by the feedbacks and the comments I'm hearing, it has been an honor for me to be able to share this with all of us. I am learning even as I'm speaking, and I'm sure it is blessing you as well. Finally, before I go, if you have not laid your hand on a copy of my book, Elisha Project, The Privilege of Serving Leaders, I cannot emphasize enough why you should get it. Why you should get it. I mean, things like we cover the purpose of serving, qualities of a good servant, attitude towards serving, balancing your family and service responsibilities, the challenges of serving and how to overcome them, the rewards of serving. So get a copy of this. It's available in Kindle and also in paperback on Amazon. Get a copy of it, and if you've read it, leave a review for us on Amazon. We are very grateful. I am very grateful, extremely grateful for spending this time with you, for you committing your 1 hour for us to share this platform and become better off for it. I am so grateful, and my prayer is that God himself, who is a rewarder of those that diligently seek him, will reward you abundantly in Jesus' name. So until next week, when we will be meeting again, don't forget to share the program. Don't forget to send your email, and the email address again is theadmirals@yahoo.com. Until next time, this is Tunde Disu saying, we ain't stopping until we all become better men. I'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye. God bless you.